I don't just talk about other people's stuff, I also make my own. Books in particular. To date, I have 4 books you can check out on Amazon. Operation Red Dragon: The Daikaiju Wars Part 1, Occult Mafia, Emerald of Maddox City, and the short story collection Assorted Absurdities, Tales of Kaiju Punk and Other Genres. Hop on down to the description for Amazon links to all 4 books. Enjoy whichever ones you read, and enjoy the video.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, I'm the Omni viewer, and not too long ago I did a video defending Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom as a worthy entry in the Jurassic series. Say what you want about the film, plenty of people have, but I like it, and I also like the hybrid dinosaur introduced in that film, the Indoraptor. Now, back when Fallen Kingdom was first released, a super articulated Indoraptor figure was released alongside it as part of the toy line. I did not manage to snag one of them back then, and by the time I felt like my resources were enough that I could afford to get it, it had gone out of print. Well, once Dominion dropped in theaters, the figure was reissued, and this time I didn't miss the opportunity. Now, I'm gonna look at the figure and see if that opportunity was actually worth it.
The figure comes in open packaging akin to the standard Jurassic toy packaging, as opposed to the closed window boxes of the more recent Hammond Collection figures. With the reissue, the package graphics have defaulted from being Fallen Kingdom specific to being more general, though still specifying it's Jurassic World rather than Jurassic Park. You can remove the figure without damaging the packaging, but the end of the tail is behind the plastic, so you do have to do some tearing. The tail insertion is easy enough. There's a barbell joint and a peg that helps you line things up, and it pops in with hardly any effort. Once it's in, though, it's secure. Now let's start as we always do, with the details. The Indoraptor was not billed as something for adult collectors like the figures of the Amber and Hammond collections, despite having a higher level of articulation than the usual action figures. You may recall that the Hammond Collection dinosaurs I reviewed so far have had flat paint jobs applied to their bodies. The Indoraptor, on the other hand, is glossy. He catches and reflects the light, and the stripes running down his sides are gold rather than plain yellow. There are also some flecks of what look like glitter scattered at random all along the body, most noticeably on the underside. I think I might know the rationale behind this choice. In the movie, you can occasionally see that some of the Indoraptor's scales have come off, exposing lighter flesh underneath. It's possible that the glitter flecks are meant to replicate that. Maybe. It might also just be something added randomly, I have no idea. Anyway, even though the paint is glossy, it still looks good. The gold stripes stand out nicely from the black, and the tiny hint of red by the eyes is precisely painted, as are the eyes themselves. The teeth and tongue also look good and don't have any significant issues. Beyond that, though, the Indoraptor is mostly monochromatic, so there's not much more to say about paint. As for finer detail, it's spot on. The Indoraptor has a very distinct appearance, and the figure captures that look splendidly. The rough, bumpy texture of the hide is nicely realized, and it transitions nicely to the smooth underside. The claws naturally are blunted rather than sharp, but they're nice and long just like in the film. Special attention must be given to the quills on the Indo's head and back. They each vary in length and angle, and some are even fused together. This really helps make the Indoraptor look strange and unnatural like the twisted prototype he is. Some textured quills can also be found on the forearms, though these don't protrude like the others do. Another nice feature is the hidden... jowls? Those stretchy things at the corners of the jaw, whatever they're called. They tuck away nicely into the head and only become visible when open, which is a nice touch. It's important to note that the super articulation, which we'll get to in a moment, does require the joints on the figure to be visible, much like on the Hammond figures. The only place they're really pronounced is on the tail, where the sockets separating each segment are much bigger than the pieces which fit into them. Despite being so noticeable, they allow for a wider range of movement, so I guess I can't really complain too much about that. The only other disruption of sculpt is on the bottoms of the feet. As expected, the right foot bears the Jurassic logo, but the left foot has this weird thing on it. I don't know if that's a QRC code or what, but whatever it is, he's standing on it 99% of the time, so who cares? The only part that kinda sticks out as a flaw to me is the snout, which is a separate piece from the head and also not quite as glossy as the rest of it. I assume this was important to the construction of the figure somehow, but it does eat at my brain every time I look at it because it clearly separates the head into multiple pieces. Well, what can you do? The real selling point is the articulation, and my word can this figure move. Much like the Hammond figures, every joint is capable of bending and rotating, but thanks to how the limbs are positioned, it opens up possibilities for some very expressive poses that the other dinosaurs simply can't achieve. He can stand upright or be down on all fours. He can be neutral or in a walking pose. He can even adopt poses that are eerily human, as you can see in these various images I took. This is a figure you can have some real fun with when it comes to displaying him, whether it's on a shelf or for photography. Now, unlike the last two dinosaur figures we looked at, the Indoraptor doesn't have a bendable tail, though since it's segmented in two places, it's not lacking for mobility. Now, I'm curious about scale, specifically whether or not the Indoraptor scales with the Hammond collection figures I'm accruing. Technically, the Indoraptor is a small dinosaur, but as small dinosaurs go, he's on the big side, much larger than you would expect. The original Indoraptor figure was also not originally made with the Hammond collection in mind, nor was it reissued as part of that line. Still, there's a chance it might be the right scale, so I'll turn to the movie itself to see if I can figure it out. Here are the best shots I could get of Blue and Indo together, and I realize they're a bit blurry because they're moving around a lot, but the important thing is that we can determine size ratios. What happens when I pose the Hammond Raptor alongside the Indo figure in a similar manner? Well, I'll be darned, it looks perfect. By accident or design, the Indoraptor is properly scaled with the Hammond collection, which means it can stand as part of the line. That actually makes me quite happy, as I was planning to do a lot of photography with these guys, and that just opened up a whole bunch of new possibilities. With that said, though, the Indoraptor's status as a fictional species means we can fudge things if we really want to. For example, I said in my review of Fallen Kingdom that the Indoraptor has a lot of similarities to the classic Universal monsters. So here he is standing alongside the Jada figures of Dracula, the Gill-Man, and the Frankenstein couple, and I think he looks good opposite to them. Just for the heck of it, here he is alongside a couple of Spawn figures from McFarlane Toys, and he looks pretty cool alongside them as well. In other words, the Indoraptor figure is just the right size that you can pose him alongside any number of collectible figures from different lines. Still, being to scale with the Hammond collection is the most satisfying revelation. In the end, I have very few issues with this guy. While he does have some visible seams and sockets, he's otherwise a solid figure. I know Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom is not everyone's favorite movie, but as a figure in its own right, the Indoraptor works, and he looks good alongside the other high-grade figures.
I like the figure, but then again I also like the movie, so take that for what you will. Until such time as we meet again, this is the Omni Viewer signing off. Alright, so technically it doesn't scale with most kaiju figures, but I mean that was to be expected, right?
Congratulations, you reached the end. If you enjoyed this video, you might want to consider supporting us on Patreon. Of course, the other way to support us is to go to Amazon and check out our books, Operation Red Dragon, The Daikaiju Wars Part 1, The Occult Mafia, Emerald of Maddox City, and Assorted Absurdities, Tales of Kaiju Punk and Other Genres. Also check the description for links to DeviantArt and other platforms we operate. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time.